how can I better this team on the floor, off the floor, in the locker room, and just be completely honest, with myself and those relationships around me. Mm-hmm. And this was the most fun I've had this past year. It was so much fun.
And honestly, you could tell.
Oh, yeah.
Kevin Love is in the building.
Man, this has been a long time coming.
I never thought I would see the day. Okay, backstory for everyone. Kevin is a dear friend of mine. I have asked him to do this show for what? Like going on 2 years?
I would say, yeah, about 2 years, maybe even add some change to that. But here we are, New York City.
Yeah.
No better place.
Truly. I mean, it is the best city.
It is.
I have to say, one thing I can always count on with you is you have on Air Force Ones.
Always.
I'm like, have I ever seen you not wearing Air Force Ones?
Well, no, it's become like, like Karl Lagerfeld has his thing, always had the same stuff on, was beautiful. But for me, it's just always been white Air Force Ones.
Yeah.
I grew up in Portland, Oregon. Obviously Phil Knight, Bill Bowerman, Prefontaine, the whole deal. So when Air Force Ones came into my life, I was very young, and I just went white. It's like a fastball straight down the middle, can wear it up, dress it up with anything, dress it down. It's easy.
And it's a trademark.
It's a trademark.
Yeah.
So it's become like my uniform. I feel like, ball players and people within our scope, you start at the sneakers, right?
Totally. Yeah. Yeah. No, it's a staple for you.
If it's just clean and white, it's good to go.
You're like, it works for me.
And then it's funny, like you see like Giannis last year coming into Game 6 or whatever with like black forces on. Everybody's like, okay.
Uh-oh, yeah.
Uh-oh. Okay.
I don't know about the black forces.
Business. Yeah,
absolutely. Okay, Noah, I'm a big fan of them, and big fan of you, of course. This is going to be a super fun conversation. And I actually want to start with Instagram because you posted a picture with an amazing caption that I thought was super powerful, and it encapsulated everything that you went through this season. And I would actually like you to read it out loud.
Okay.
Okay.
Who has the...
I've got it.
I was appropriate and, I guess respectful and didn't bring my phone in here.
Oh.
Maybe I should have.
Look at this, professional.
Okay, and a little, I guess, context, backstory, super small, but I just woke up in the morning. I was so happy for Tyler Hero. People that know me know I'm a huge fan of him. I even said that, like, I love his swag. I love that he just... At his age, I didn't know who I was. Like, I wasn't comfortable in my own skin. I didn't just own who Kevin Love is or who Kevin is. And he does that. And he plays, and I love what Spo does and their team. And, I know we'll get into more playoffs and basketball type stuff, but I'm a huge fan of Tyler Hero. Knew he was going to win the award, but I thought, man, even if I'm runner up and I go into, that same context here, that was something to be proud of after coming off to like a injury riddled season, and just being there for my teammates, being a part of the bigger picture in the organization, and being a part of something bigger than myself. So I woke up, whatever morning it was, less than a week ago, and kind of was like, all right, I'm gonna write a reflection of my 14th year.
Yeah.
So here we
let's
go.
Hear it.
Tommy Alter liked it.
Shout out to Tommy, by the way.
So reflection, year 14. After the most frustrating injury of my career in the 2020-2021 season and an exit from USA Basketball in the summer due to not feeling fully healed and in shape, many people said I was done. Some even went as far to say as, quote, Love should soon consider retirement, end quote. This even came from some I thought I respected. To my face and behind my back were Fugazi. Love the. Yeah.
Love the.
I had to say Fugazi. If anybody knows me, like the whole, Donnie Brasco. Anyways, I never let that commentary shake my belief system. I reevaluated a lot of relationships, but took the time to assess the guy in the mirror first. I worked my ass off to come into the season healthy with the goal of being available and the mindset of helping lead a young Cavs team in taking the next step. Be the vet I never had early in my career. Help build a winning culture that permeates no matter the lineup. To the dogs, you know that old man loves you. Love that part. Had to throw that in there for my guys. Sacrifice gives back more than it costs. For this team to make the leap, I had to sacrifice and come off the bench for the first time since my sophomore season in the NBA 13 years ago. I didn't fight it, and I was hungry to have a positive impact and produce like I always have. I'm thankful for JB's transparency and trust. You allowed me to be the best version of myself, and it'll always be bigger than basketball with us. Numbers don't lie. So I'm just going to throw a few in here. For bench players, I led the league in double-doubles, broke a franchise record of 3-point field goals off the bench, led the team with 187 3-point made field goals, and tied as a leader, in charges taken. As for my goal of being available, I led the team in games played, and outside of games missed due to COVID, played in every single game. This post might seem like too much vanity for some because I was only the runner-up for Sixth Man of the Year, but it meant something to me to earn my respect back in a league and a game that I've dedicated my life to. Reaffirmations. Never be defined by what other people say you are. Almost all of the time, you don't see the view or perspective from the floor of the arena. A lot of seats in the arena are filled with people who have never ventured out onto the floor. They throw shade at a safe distance. So keep showing up, remaining hungry, and fuck what they think.
I love it. Sing it out loud. Is it a different feeling?
Yeah, no, and I think that was a big part of the reason that I felt compelled to share that. I think it was good for both brain and body, but there's people out there that so much of the commentary is now the content, right? Like there's people that do it right. You do it right. There's former players that really do it the right way. There's people who, at the very least, will meet you halfway with respect, right? And I feel like no matter if you're, the security guard, equipment manager, all the people behind the scenes that make everything work and everything go, all the way to the owner of an organization, like you have to meet everybody halfway with respect. And, a lot of ways I feel like that wasn't happening with me, but to everyone, I wanted them to know that, you can't always give a shit what people think. You're not going to make everybody healthy.
You can almost never give a shit.
No, seriously. It's like, it's a life hack, and it's not just something that's given to you. It's definitely a learned thing. And again, took me longer than most, and took me, working on myself. Like I said, assessing myself in the mirror. It's, a never ending process. That's the beauty of basketball, but also in life, you can always get better.
Yeah.
So that's kind of where I was at. I wanted to get it off my chest. And again, I always try and, if I can, pay it forward, but at the same time, like exposing that. And I always say nothing haunts us like the things we don't say. Mm-hmm. I had to let it
Absolutely.
out.
Yeah. Well, there are some parts of it I really want to dive into and have you expand on a bit. So some even went as far as to say love should soon consider retirement. This even came from some I thought I respected, and to my face and behind my back were fugazi. I never let that commentary shake my belief system.
Yeah.
What are you referring to right here?
I mean, USA basketball, nobody's, everybody knows what happened there. I'd been part of, the thing that really hurt me with that whole situation is, yeah, sure, I wasn't over my injury. Maybe, there was a couple people that I genuinely love and have a great relationship with. They're like, all right, you should, go to USA basketball and show that you're healthy and show that you're right. So I'm like, yeah, you're right, I should. And, in that, I totally owned up to that. And that's why I ended up, taking a step back, assessing and being like, all right, let's let these guys, meaning Jerry Colangelo and Pop and Sean Ford, those guys, let's take a step back and say, okay, I've been a part of USA basketball since I was 17 years old. Mm-hmm. And they can go get somebody that's going to help them. I was not able to be in the best shape that I could have been because I couldn't fully run yet with my calf. I couldn't fully press off. Like I still could, really shoot the ball. I could space the floor. I could rebound the basketball. But as far as switching 1 through 5 and how they wanted to play, it just wasn't appropriate for me.
Yeah.
And, in a different setting or context or anything like that, maybe it might have worked out, but I wasn't right. So I took a step back, reassessed the situation and said, all right, sometimes if things aren't adding up, you have to start subtracting, and sometimes it has to be yourself. And for me, that was it. But then, people that I've had relationships with throughout USA basketball for that long threw me under the bus. And I didn't like that because I felt that I did the right thing by coming to the landing spot and landing point that I eventually got to there. And I just thought it was really unfair. And from this very elite fraternity that we have in our 450 players, times that by what would it be 45, or there's 12 players, a little bit less than that. Like, the 10 guys or the 12 guys on that team, and then all that have come before in USA basketball, it's not many people.
Right.
So like that's an even more elite fraternity. And you would think like you take care of each other.
100%.
And like I still love, everybody there. Like Sean Ford is a near and dear friend of mine. Like he'll always will be. And, Grant Hill is now taking it over. He's incredible. So I hope I'm a part of that family from here on out. But that was, the people that I was talking to, as well as media members that, were either, some beat writers for us and around, they kept asking about my body through the season. I'm like, no. Right. Even if I have to speak it into existence, of course I still feel like I can be that same player.
Totally. And
I said when I went to USA Basketball, I go, maybe I might have to take on a new role in my career, but who knows? I'm not going to, you want to make God laugh, tell me plans, right? Like, I don't know. I can't see into the future. Will I get back healthy? Absolutely. But let's start there first.
Yeah.
But again, I think about it like, the 4 agreements, like, be impeccable with your word.
Yep. Be impeccable with your word. Always do your best.
Always
Never
do your best,
make
make assumptions, and don't take anything personal. Yes. So it didn't take me long to get over that. Was it fuel and motivation from the commentary? Sure. But again, like I said, it never shook my belief system and never, messed with my love of the game and where I thought I could be and how I could help a young team. Like I definitely had to reassess and had lengthy conversations with JB, and our families go back to the 70s. And, JB has known about me since I was a little, asshole kid at some times. Like the Bickerstaffs, they mean a lot to me, and I genuinely love them even just outside of basketball.
Yeah.
And, he was a big part of, that continued conversation and continuity with what we were doing and overall transparency. Like I said there, a lot of that was JB and him believing in me and being with me my first 3 years in the league and really being the first guy to believe in me and said, okay, this kid could be good.
Yeah. And so when you talk about USA Basketball, I know you had the opportunity to address Jerry Colangelo. We saw that on the shop and all those things. But what was the aftermath of that? Did he reach out? Did he apologize?
Nothing. But Sean Ford, he reached out. He's always been gracious. I love Sean. He's been amazing to me and to my family for, I want to say almost 20 years now, but yeah, dating back to when I was, 17. So a little, 15 or 16 years. And, Pop, we saw each other in San Antonio. We intercepted each other. He was literally right outside our locker room. We had a great conversation. And then Grant Hill called me as well.
Good.
So these are people that, I love and respect. And again, had met me halfway. And, I appreciate that. I respect that. And, it's not just that, it's just a game. It's just basketball. But again, it's that elite fraternity. Like, you take care of the next man. You pay it forward. You leave it in a better place for the next generation. Mm-hmm. And like you've been here interviewing all of them. Like, the next gen is I'm so excited.
So good.
Yeah. It's so excited. And there's obviously, 2 or 3 years, before and after when I came into the league, I have those guys as peers, but the league is in, a really good place right now. So I think, like, again, you have to do right by those guys, but that doesn't just stop at the players and the coaches.
Right.
That goes to front office, that goes to ownership. So like, I don't know, I always feel like you get what you give. And I felt like I'd given a lot to both USA Basketball and to the game. And, it was just an ugly spot for me. But again, like Candace Parker, love what she said about just, sometimes you have to let time tell your story.
Yeah,
and that
absolutely.
was one of the best. I was ready to run through a wall listening to her speak. That was one of the best ever.
It's funny that you talk about Candace, because when she came on the show, we had yet another conversation about USA Basketball. Yeah. And I've had conversations with other NBA players about USA Basketball, and there seems to be a couple issues that bubble with how it works, how it's run, and all these things. So what would you change about USA Basketball?
Well, that's funny. It's funny you asked that, I should say, because Grant Hill and I never got the time to really get into it, because he called me and he just wanted to, I think, pick different players' brains about that exact thing. Mm-hmm. How can we get better? How can we change moving forward? What do guys want this to look like? What do you feel about the young guys? How do you like how we play? Those sorts of conversations and just the culture around USA Basketball as well. I think because of, it was tough because when Pop took over, it was, guys dropping off, or they were in contract years, or they didn't really put together, a dream team type scenario. And then, COVID happened, and there was so many different factors that it just had a weird feel to it.
Yeah.
But thankfully, as an American, USA ended up winning, which is great. It was scary there for a few moments.
Oh yeah, it was shaky.
It was shaky, but they got it done. And like they said afterwards, like what can they say now? Like USA is still on top, but again, the world is catching up.
No, absolutely, which is exciting and
it's
fun.
Very exciting.
And it's like,
it's very
we're
exciting.
on top. Yeah.
But also and this is going off of that, it's like a few years ago, I remember like Luka was Rookie of the Year, Slovenia. Giannis, obviously MVP from Greece. And then you have Siakam from Cameroon. Like, what other league can say that?
Totally.
And I was like, this is so amazing.
That was David Stern's dream.
David Stern's dream.
100%.
And so the foresight there. I've been watching Winning Time and like seeing him like, go to Magic and Bird and everything, like just having the foresight to see all that. It's brilliant.
Love that. Yeah. Okay, another part of the caption I want to dive into. You said, but took the time to assess the guy in the mirror first. So what thing were you doing that contributed to a difficult moment in your career?
I think more so it was, you can't, I always put in the work. I've always chased the game. I understand that nothing happens without that ball. And again, I talk about earning my respect back in a league in a game that I've dedicated my life to, right? So it was like going to therapy. I always said it like, if, the things weren't adding up, like something's going on, it's time to do the work. So, I gave a real look at myself, and it was one of the things I talked about this year. Like I talked to Draymond about going from, 4 straight finals, expectations to not only, go to the finals, but win NBA championship, to then going to a team that's a complete rebuild. And, you don't fully understand what you're getting yourself into, and you say you do, and you think you have this great perspective, and then you just lose. And that's really hard. So when Clay and Steph were out, Draymond had to go through that too. So we were throwing a couple things off each other. It's not easy to do. And I thought to myself, like, what am I really upset about here? We have a great young nucleus. The trading of Jared Allen was incredible. We drafted Colin Sexton. I know he got hurt, but then we didn't say, oh, we're going to have this small backcourt. We can't then go draft Darius Garland 5th. We did. And we drafted Evan Mobley.
Yeah.
It's just, the young core, the young nucleus, signed Lauri Markkanen, Karis LeVert. Like, I could go through our entire lineup. We're made up to be good for a really long time. But from a leadership perspective, I'm like, okay. And I mentioned it there. Like, I never had like a true veteran that, I had to fight every day in practice. The closest thing probably would have been Al Jefferson. Okay. But he had ACL tear early when I got there. So I had to learn a lot of things on my own. I got to Cleveland with likely some bad habits. Everything had kind of run through me. I didn't understand what true sacrifice meant for, again, something bigger than myself. But I thought, okay, I can apply that to this situation as well. It's not only coming off the bench, it's like being there for DG. Like that's like my little brother.
Yeah.
Finding ways to reach out and connect to JA. Getting Evan to speak, getting him to speak and to have a breakthrough season and say, hey, listen, this could be a lot of responsibility for you.
Yeah.
You're like the one. Yeah. Like you and DG and Jay, like that big 3, like you guys are it.
Yeah.
And then
we all build it very well, by the way.
And we all build around you. And we went against the grain too. I thought that was so amazing with Lowry too, like that 7-foot lineup. 3 7-footers out there, and then DG and Ice. I mean, we have, again, I forgot to even say Ice. Like, you think about that 5th pick and, had a really good year. So I think it was more than anything assessing myself and saying, okay, why was I upset? Who am I really upset at? In a lot of ways, I looked at in the mirror, I'm like, I'm upset with you. And like, in some cases, how you've acted. And, you've been hurt. You can't really control that, but how can I better this team on the floor, off the floor, in the locker room, and just be completely honest, with myself and those relationships around me. And this was the most fun I've had this past year. It was so
and
much
honestly,
fun.
You could tell.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Well, the whole team. But
totally.
we were like, it was like every game was, the whole crowd is into it. And let me tell you, Cleveland fans, like if you show up and you play hard, they're going to pack.
They're there.
Yeah, they're there. They're there, and they're going to show up. So when we started to win games. We started to see more and more people fill the arena, Rocket Mortgage, and I think that created a culture around us that we love being together. We pay it forward. We're the most pay it forward team. Share the wealth, and we celebrate each other. Like I can remember Phoenix. I was watching it was like an interview with Monty and CP and Devin, and they were talking about like celebrating the small wins within the season. Mm-hmm. And I actually, had a conversation with the coach of the year. Congratulations in Miami. And I'd spoken about that. I said, man, what's so cool? And I learned from you guys, and it's cool to learn new things in your 14th year. I said, you guys celebrate the little wins within the season. Mm-hmm. So it's not so monotonous. Everybody's then, they're lifting after games. Mm-hmm. They're like so together. It's like I looked at the Miami Heat. I looked at them. I looked at us and how we could apply all of that. And I feel like we developed a real culture that people would gravitate towards. Like when Karras got to the team, he's like, oh, this is like a great, and we're like, yeah, like everybody, like JB we make fun of him because he gives the same speech every time to a new player, but he's like, we really love each other here. We celebrate each other. We have complete freedom. There's no fear here. And once you get past the fear, there's freedom in that. Like just go out there, do the right thing, stick to our plan. But then outside of that, you can grow within, the team. Everybody thinks of player development as like, I have to get better for me. But it's like, how can you fit in the scope, like the player development in how can we become a championship level team?
Right.
And I think everybody understood that on our team.
Absolutely. I mean, so you're incredibly self-aware. I think that you have a very good gauge of what your ability is and all of those things, and you have a fortitude to stay like on the right track. Mm-hmm. But you're hearing all these things at this time. Did you ever have a moment that you were like, should I retire?
No.
Good.
No. I mean, like hard no. It's like hard pass. There was never a moment. And I think in some ways you have to like have a feeling of, I don't know if audacity is the right word, but you have to, again, it's that core belief system and knowing, again, who you are. Listen, I'm incredibly flawed and a work in progress. I think, there's some people that are less, there's levels to it. But for me, I thought to myself, this isn't it for me.
Yeah.
And I know in this league that if you're healthy, if you can shoot, if you can rebound, that's a luxury, especially being a big. So I've always been able to do that. That's not going to leave me. Those things I feel like I've put in work to where it's second nature. So, I was able to help the team and execute in a really, really great way in 22 and a half minutes a night. Like, I wish I would play more minutes, but like, again, we have those 7-footers that are out there doing work and had us in the, top 5 in pretty much every defensive category across the board. So again, that sacrifice, like I said, gives back more than it costs. And I think we were either plus 22 or 23 wins in the win column. So, and had those guys not gotten hurt when it might've been a 50-win season.
Yeah.
So, and that all just lands back in the same place of just self-belief and not being defined by, what they say you are. So I guess, in a lot of ways thinking that, the deadlines on dreams is, there's no, dreams don't have deadlines.
They
right?
definitely
Like it I think it added new life and excitement, not only to our organization, but selfishly me as well. And those young guys, they call me old man and grandpa. I'm like, how the hell? I'm like, how is Doe? How is Rondo? How is he not the old?
Yeah, he's not grandpa.
It's the gray hair that gets everybody. So
it's the being wise.
I'm an esteemed 33 years old. Yeah.
All right, last thing from the caption because I just love it so much. You talk about gaining respect back.
Yeah.
But did it hurt to feel like you had lost the respect?
Oh yeah. No, as a human being, and I know I'm talking to the man in the mirror, but also like coaching staff, Kobe Altman, front office, I think my therapist, like those are conversations that I had. I had to, let that out. But I had spoken to Doug Collins actually at USA Basketball, And we had talked about that. He had actually come to me and said, this is how you get your respect back. And this is how, you solidify your integrity back in the game, and you get that back. And he told me a great Michael Jordan story. It's one he's told before where, he had that string of however many double-digit games in a row. It was 800, 900 and something. I forget the number, but he landed on 8 points or whatever, and Jordan met him on the bus. He's on the Wizards, and, first seed or second seed or whatever, and said, "Hey, coach, you still think I can play?" He's like, "Yeah, Michael, what are you talking about?" He goes, "Okay." He's like, "Tomorrow, just, get me the ball." And so, they're staying at whatever hotel that they were staying at, I believe in Georgetown. And, Doug's walking out early in the morning and he sees Michael down there, just putting this crazy lift and crazy work, drenched in sweat, working with Tim Grover. And he's like, "Man, we're back to back. We got in 3 a.m. in the morning and Jordan is down there just chasing it, working, just working." So he goes out that night and scores 50 points. And he's like, "Yeah, I told you, motherfucker."
Yeah, I can still play.
Yeah, I can still play. So that, again, I don't know if I had the bandwidth at the time because I was so in my head about my injury and not being able to feel and be myself out there on the floor, but it still hit home. And that was something that I wanted, was to get that feeling back of respect within the league. And it first started with my teammates more than anything. And I had a moment last year that was taken completely out of context, but that's neither here nor there, in Toronto that, people still brought up. And it's funny because my teammates go, "Man, that was so like," just from looking at it from a perspective, I didn't see it until after the game. And I'm like, "Oh God, this is going to be really bad."
Yeah. So explain why you say it's taken out of context.
Just because of like how things are perceived or how they look. Like, here we go, making assumptions, right? Mm-hmm. But I know how it looked. And it was funny because I was actually, the reason it happened, I was really angry at Courtney Kirkland I just kept getting pushed into the back. If you see me, I like go to the stanchion and like trying to rip out, like I was just having an out of body experience. And I'm like, "Courtney, like, I forget who it was, like just keeps like pushing me in the back. It should be over the back call every single time." Wasn't calling it. We had lost 3 players the night before in Washington to, I've never seen this before, concussions. And Larry Nance, I think, breaks his hand or finger. And so we have, 8 players or whatever it is. And we're like dying for a win. We're struggling. Guys are banged up. It's towards the end of the season. And so I smack the ball, not even thinking I'm just going to go grab it and then inbound it, goes in. Mm-hmm. And then they, of course, they, I forget who it was, but ends up, hitting a 3. And I'm just like, "Oh God," JB calls a timeout. I'm like, "Just please berate me and just go at me, please." But we go into the locker room after the game, and it's funny. DG, he's like, "We good now?" So I, apologize. I'm like, "You guys know that's not what it looked like, but that's on me. I'm supposed to be your vet. I'm supposed to be your leader." But I think I took that frustration out there and had nothing to do with them. But again, that was the context of it. Like I talked to even Dean Wade on our team. He was like laughing. He's like, "That was such like a non-thing that people made it out to be something that it wasn't." But
as it goes,
I know what it looked like, and absolutely, I would have probably thought the same thing because a narrative takes on a life of its own, and that's just what it is. But no, I think it was built out from my teammates first, and getting that respect back, and so much of relationships is communication, but also half the battle, or maybe more, is showing up. And that's what I wanted to do for them.
For sure. I mean, I've had conversations with Jamal Crawford about this, Lou Williams about this, about the best.
Jay Cross.
About kind of the adjustment that comes with saying, "Okay, hey, I'm the 6th man."
Yeah.
What role did ego play in that adjustment for you, if any?
I mean, I have an ego. There's no doubt. Like I remember Coach K in USA Basketball. He's like, no. I want you guys all have egos and you're here for a reason. Like you didn't get here, it's like, what was the quote in Billions? It's like, you don't become a billionaire pitching underhand. It's like, we didn't get to this point by not having that.
Yeah.
But he goes, "I want you to all bring your egos here for the greater good of this room, everybody in here." So, I just thought I could thrive in that role. I really believed it. And JB, I was like, listen, I have no problem earning my minutes. I have no problem going out there and fighting. I think that'll give me extra motivation. And I know that my teammates love me and my teammates know that I love them. So put me out there for 20 to 25 minutes a night, I can get a lot done. So I've always prided myself on being productive, efficient. Obviously games go like this, but more often than not, you're working your way towards a healthy progress. And I just, honestly, I felt like I could do a lot in that 6-man role. I really did. And
you did.
Yeah. And ego definitely played a part in it. But again, I didn't fight it. I didn't fight it at all.
Yeah. I think that's like surprising to me, though, that you didn't fight it at all.
Because it's me?
No, because it's anyone, it's anyone that is having to majorly adjust what they're used to.
Yeah.
In some ways, what you think in your head is a back seat, to what you're used to.
I think it's going to be, when it's all said and done, you're going to say Kevin Love took a back seat to Evan Mobley. Evan he is, I saw him and I'm like, oh, wow, I get it. Wow.
Yeah.
Like he's obviously biased. I thought he should have won Rookie of the Year. I know it was a very close battle. Scotty Barnes, a beast. Cade Cunningham, awesome player. Continue to get better throughout the season. But I love his makeup, Evan's makeup. I love his brain and how he lets everything come to him. Quiet guy, but like 20 years old.
So quiet. I interviewed him at the draft.
Oh, no.
So quiet.
You got to get him.
Really nice, but so quiet. Yeah.
So quiet. So like he's already that great defensively, and yet he doesn't like have the communication skills yet.
Yeah.
I mean, he has the skills. I just think we need to get him to talk.
Yeah.
But Isaac Okoro was the same way.
Isaac was
the same way. It was like the first year he's like, man, and he's like, people ask me who do I think's like low-key the funniest guy on the team. Like, Ice is so funny. He is so funny. And I don't think enough people know that about him. But I'm hoping that, because he started, now we can't get him to shut up, Ice.
Yeah.
So, like, I'm hoping it won't be the same thing with Evan, I know. But, no, I get excited about where his game could go, because eventually he's going to step out and shoot more threes. He's going to have that KG type of post game, and then between him and JA, like those are going to be all defensive players at that position.
Yeah. Okay, so you mentioned awards. You're talking about Evan Mobley, Rookie of the Year, and I really want to get your perspective on this. Draymond is someone I talk to about awards all the time. Sometimes you agree, sometimes you disagree. I have a vote. I actually voted Evan 1. I voted Scotty 2. I voted Cade 3. But congrats to Scotty. He is very, very deserving. With awards, what can we do to get at least some group of players a vote?
Fully agree.
Yes.
That's where I think Draymond really hit it on the head too, talking about like the years and if I didn't like a certain guy and how I can vote. And then I think I love watching Jordan Poole, by the way.
Yeah.
And the fact that he wasn't, and how far he progressed during the season. Because I agree, like, could is Ja worthy of the award? I mean, he's like worthy of MVP consideration.
Mm-hmm.
Like, of course he could, like the most improved player. I think he was already great.
Yeah.
He was already, solidified, but happy, not mad at him winning it. I think I've said since he almost jumped over me and dunked on me that I was like, okay, this guy's going to be special. But no, I think Draymond's right. I do believe that, in some cases, I don't know, a selection of your peers should be able to have some say on who they believe.
Agreed,
At
totally.
least ends up in like the finalists.
Yeah.
Right? Because the fact that Jordan Poole went in there is, I mean.
So that's what I said to Draymond. I said, the discourse about this should be, how is Jordan Poole not even in the final 3? Because what that indicates is some people just didn't even vote for him. Like, you can argue about who wins an award all day.
Right.
But the finalists?
Yeah.
He's not a finalist?
He's not a finalist. I didn't understand that.
Yeah. Okay, but this is my only thing about most improved, I will say. And I had Jordan in my votes. But somewhere along the way, people started to think the award is like most unlikely to improve. And that's not the award.
It's not the award.
Like, the award is...
That is funny, yeah.
You understand what I'm saying?
Yeah, of course.
Like, it's truly just about improvement. So I get the argument for both sides.
Yeah.
But we're kind of changing what the award means. Like, people are like, I get it. You want like a fringe player to get it. Sure. You want somebody to get that love, and that's important. But if we're just talking about improvement, that does apply to some guys.
By the way, look at Ja's numbers.
Yeah.
He made a major jump.
Yeah. It's like we're just arguing degrees of improvement.
Correct.
And
like, I don't know if it's necessarily talent levels, because I think, Poole is an extremely talented player. I mean, look what he's done even in the playoffs in his first go around, right?
Yeah.
But yeah, being someone who won that award in 2011, I didn't really start shooting threes until my third year. So like there was that improvement.
Yes.
I had taken a big jump in numbers. I think I went from like 14 and I know I averaged a double-double in my second year, but to like 20 points, and then from 11 rebounds or 12 rebounds, whatever it was, to 15.
Mm-hmm.
Like that, those are big jumps that,
Absolutely.
I think in some cases were unexpected, but I certainly improved on a number of levels. But it's most improved is a weird thing.
It really is. It's
probably
like
the
up
most
for interpretation.
Yeah, up for interpretation, like obscure award. And by obscure, I mean like it's definitely something that you can't put in a box and say, okay, this is how it's defined.
Right.
There's a lot of gray area with most improved,
And
we're seeing that.
I think
that's
area.
what Draymond was like alluding to, right? And I loved his take on that.
I think the thing that's getting people kind of caught up with Ja is it's that he won Rookie of the Year, but great players have won Most Improved Player.
Yeah.
But it's just we forget because Paul George has won Most Improved Player. You know what I mean?
Right?
Yeah, like people have won Most Improved Player that you're like
MVPs, perennial all-stars, like those type of players.
But it's that I love award season because everybody debates. Okay, wait, how do you define MVP? Are you like, okay, it's the person who does the most?
I feel like it's like when Jordan every year, or like LeBron through the 2010s, like you could give it to him every single year.
Yeah.
I mean, outside of Steph, maybe a few years, but those guys like 1 and 2, 1A, 1B, like all the time, right, across the board. But it's just so hard to. I know that Joker got knocked out in the first round, but what he did this season, it was unprecedented numbers-wise.
And it's a regular season award. You know what I mean?
Correct.
Like, yeah. So it's like, okay, he got bounced out.
Yeah.
We submit the votes before that. You know what I mean?
Yep.
But that is one I would have been happy if Embiid won. I think he deserved it.
Me too.
Jokic won. He deserved it.
Yeah.
It just kind of comes down to, but the pressure that is on the media, I'm like, is this a thing that the media solely should decide? There has to be another voice.
Yeah. How do you fix it?
Okay,
but I think if it was judged on by, again, peers or players and that fraternity that I talked about, I still feel that if you, it's like the curve on a test. If you weighted the media and I still think that Jokic, he ends up on top. I really do.
Yeah.
And Embiid not far behind. I mean, Giannis, again, could be every single year. And there's a number of players after that I don't think are in that top finalist group, but I think, all three are well deserving. But I do think that there's something to be said for, players, especially that give themselves to the game, really know the game, take the time to know the game, which isn't everybody, but
totally.
And because some people like Draymond even says like you don't know what you're looking at, and that's totally fair. That there has to be something there. I don't have the answer, so I can say I don't know, but I do think that there is some other way that we can pivot and make it so others are involved and it makes sense. There is something there.
Yeah, I do like this idea, though, of having this maybe player committee that adds a vote to the finalists. I'm into that.
Yeah,
we're
committee.
gonna. Yeah,
I like it.
We'll have to start that campaign.
Yeah. Well, and if they can all come to, it can't be like a jury trial where it's like one person, it can't be like that. But if they all, draw the straws and they all end up with, that's the vote that they get, the accumulation of that guy getting the top score in the votes or whatever it may be. But there's something there with some sort of player committee that should make sense.
Yeah. Okay. So you mentioned LeBron when you were talking about people that could always win MVP.
Yeah.
I am fascinated by you and LeBron's friendship. And the reason is it is kind of rare for people to stop playing together and still be close.
Yeah.
That is not a thing that usually happens. Why do you think you all are still close?
Yeah, I think Bron and myself and his whole crew, we just we became family, whether it be Randy or Rich, Mav, like everybody within his world, I've been very fortunate to become close to and a part of their story, as well as Bronze. And we've continued that friendship. Like I saw him last week at the F1 race in Miami, and it was just, again, never a dull moment. Never, we always leave off and feel like when we get back together, it's the same page, and it's just so much love there. And I think, us keeping in touch through a group chat where it's 6 of us on it from our 2016 team.
Yeah, and y'all are in it every day.
Every single day. I mean, it's constant. And we talk about everything. I think that's the beauty of it. It's definitely a safe space. Guys throw out different things. If guys are going through a moment, we're very supportive. And again, like if somebody needs to get clowned or trashed or ran through the mud, we do that as well. Like it's all good at the end of the day. But I think, Bron first was somebody that was, I was looking up to, somebody I wanted to compete against, somebody that I thought I could, play with. And then we took on a very unique, friendship in that way where it's become a brotherhood and something that'll be, lasting for, I think, as long as we live.
Yeah. I mean, trust me, I get it. I know group chats are sacred, but last time you were clowned in the group chat.
Oh, probably when Bron dunked on me. Yeah. I mean, that was like a severe clown. And I just, some things you're like, you get out ahead of, right? But I was like, all right, guys, let's hear it.
That was your first text when you got to the...
Oh, yeah. I was like, all right, let's hear it. All right, come on. Like, let's fucking hear it. Come on, I'm ready. Just go for it because this is good. Because most like storylines and everything, it's become just so much because, you have to have material and so much content nowadays. It's like a 2-week window or lifespan. And so like that'll be on a career highlight for him, especially with the Lakers.
100%. Yeah.
And it's like, I hate it had to be him, right? Like that's what he says. Like, man, just get out of the way. But, first of all, it happens to everybody. But that was definitely a moment, the last moment that I got clowned on that group chat at the very least.
Yeah. I mean, but you
Big
get
moment.
it.
Like I really, that was a lot. Because, I think Richard was like, oh my God. I was like, oh shit, here we go.
Yeah, here it comes.
And then Channing just, he wants to throw, rocket fuel onto the fire. Like it's not enough to just like spray a little bit. He's like, so of course.
I love that. Like just the 2016 champs group chat.
Yeah.
Does it have a title?
It changes every night. Like we changed the photo the other day because I think that Richard changed it to something. I forget. Anyways, Channing was, it may be a little bit too explicit for this, but Channing was he was eating a churro and I screenshotted it. It didn't look right. And so I sent it to the group chat and everybody's like, okay. So Rich immediately took it and just put it as the photo and then Channing changed it. And like, it's just, and it's just little stuff like that well, you had to be there, but everybody does it within their chat and gets, it's just, again, a safe space. We let anything go.
So funny.
Yeah.
What I always think about, I interviewed Chris Paul maybe like 2 years ago. And you're talking about LeBron, and he says, Taylor, LeBron is the most frugal person I know. He says, when we walk into a place, the first thing LeBron says is, what's the Wi-Fi password? I don't want to use my data.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. I've seen that a million times in Toronto. And like, they talk about like wealth and all that. Like sometimes there's the things you don't see. And for him, it's like, behind the scenes, he if we're in Toronto, right? Like that drive from the airport and going through customs to then getting to our hotel. Yeah, there's no data used at all. Like he's waiting for the Wi-Fi all the time. And then so that drive from the hotel to then the arena, Air Canada also waits to get to the arena and Wi-Fi. Like
that's so funny.
And like what's a finance great saying? A small leak can sink a great ship. But like that's not even a
minuscule
exactly.
leak.
That's not even it's nothing.
Yeah.
But
he's like, no.
I can appreciate it.
Yeah.
I gotta say, it's not like I'm mad at it, but I'm like, come on, bro. Like seriously.
Yeah. Just
like,
get on Twitter.
Wi-Fi. You want it like maybe it's good for you to get away from your phone for a minute, but like I don't know. It's just roaming. I don't know.
Are you having a bachelor party? And is it going to be like 2016 champs at the party?
No. So I wanted nothing to do with a bachelor party.
Really?
I wanted nothing because what do I don't want to wake up every morning feeling terrible and like.
True.
I don't know if I just didn't think it was my thing, but my best friend and I from back home, speaking of F1, his dad collected cars, race cars. my best friend Ernie was actually a national champion go-kart racer at one point. He stopped racing, which was too bad, especially with where the sport's gone now. But his dad, who's like a father figure to me, had gone to the Monaco Grand Prix like a number of times, right? So we had talked about it maybe for 15, 20 years now, like, oh, we got to go when we get the chance. We got to go when we get the chance. So like after, last year's fireworks and controversy and everything that happened in F1, right? With those two drivers, I was like, okay, this might be the year that we're going. So he's like, I'm not having a bachelor party. He's getting married in August. And so I'm like, all right, we're going to go to the Monaco Grand Prix so long as we're not in the playoffs, so we can book it up, if we're not. And then, Liverpool is now playing, in the Champions League final on that Saturday night. Wine country is right there. And on top of that, I've always been a huge, not only Rafa fan, but a major Federer fan growing up as well. So we get to see the semifinals of the French Open. So it's like we get to hit all of these different things. And so it's more, I like experiences. I like experience-driven things that are super memorable other than, I don't want to drink till I don't remember.
Right.
What's what I mean?
Yeah.
I sometimes I like to, if I mess up in a game or something, I like to drink until it feels like I did the right thing. But I'm never going to get to the point where like, I'm in a bad, I don't want to get to a point where I'm in a bad spot. I'm like, oh, guys, I can't do this another night.
Yeah. Well, it's funny you say this because I will say one thing about being friends with Kevin, you will always eat well and you'll drink well. You always pick good wine. Oh, yeah. And I'm like not a wine person, but I feel like I'm always drinking the wine I'm supposed to be drinking. Yeah, so kudos.
You're hanging with the right crowds then.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, you keep 100%. Good company.
Okay, this is like totally unrelated. But when I was researching for this interview, I watched like a bunch of your interviews. And you said something in an interview with Graham Bensinger, I believe. And you're talking about Minnesota and your time there. And you said, a lot of went on there for a few years wasn't normal. And I still haven't seen today, and I probably never will.
Yeah.
What are you referring to?
So I guess I would have to know context, but in terms of my...
You said it when he asked about the contract being shown to you.
Oh,
but then you were saying there was a litany of things that were not normal.
Right. There was a lot of things going on. And I believe maybe some of them still are with that organization. I really did enjoy my time there. People say, oh, Minneapolis. I'm like, Minneapolis was amazing, and it still is. Like, it's probably one of the most underrated cities within the league and professional sports. I mean, you have the Vikings, you have the Twins, XL Energy Center, you have the Wild, Target Center. Obviously, you have the Timberwolves, like in the Lynx. Like, you have, these really... maybe famous is a strong word, but like very notable sports teams. Like I grew up loving Kirby Puckett. So Minnesota, I was like, this is so cool. I want to go to Minnesota one day. And KG came along. That was one of the first games outside of Portland that I had ever seen a professional game. And KG and Dirk and Tim Duncan were all, some of my favorite power forwards of all time during that era. So, no, I think just a lot went on there behind the scenes that was, that I still haven't seen to this day. Like JB and I even talk about it. It's like, you think you've seen it all, and then just more and more happens. But
what's like in your head when you're saying that? Like, what are you referring to?
Well, this is what, and some people might feel a certain way about this, and I'm thankful for advanced statistics, but sometimes they don't always tell the full story. But in a lot of cases, like I said, they don't lie. And what really pained me was, in my 6 years, we never made it to the playoffs. But we also had a revolving door with coaches and with players. And like no continuity, not spending to get free agents, no real like linear path or idea of what this is going to look like. And again, we had a chance to draft Steph. Like, can you imagine Steph and Ricky Rubio?
Crazy.
And I love Johnny Flynn. I really do. But I played against Steph in college. Like, he had us down 20. Thankfully, we came back and won the game. We had, Russ guarding him, but he still, I was like, man, who is this little baby face assassin? But no, saw him firsthand. I didn't think that, obviously hindsight's always 2020, at least in your mind, but I just felt like there were a number of things that went wrong there. And again, like I had to look in the mirror at myself as well. Like my mental health, a couple of those years was in a really awful place. But I think it was probably an accumulation of just chaos. But some people thrive in that, and some people don't. And I feel like I certainly did not. But I was happy to see their successes here. Like Anthony Edwards, I could watch him sit here and do an interview.
He's so fun. Yeah.
He's so fun. And again, like a guy that just, it's like, okay, he doesn't fully understand like who he is yet, or like he has a self-belief system and like knowing how great he can be. Mm-hmm. But he is just so comfortable in who he is. He's funny. He can tell, like he's in the new Adam Sandler movie. Yeah. It's produced by Spring Hill and Braun, all those guys, and Adam Sandler. And I just feel like he's one of those guys that is just, he could be a professional hobbyist. Like he could play, bowling or darts or golf.
And it'd be exciting.
And be exciting. It'd be great. Cad, he came out, won the 3-point competition as a 7-footer, as a center.
You're like, yep.
Yeah, big fella. I told him that when I saw him, I was like, hey man, you torched these nets. You got to chill tonight. And of course, he hits a big three to put them up, and they won that game. But D-Lo, that whole team, like I was happy for him. Yeah. I still have a lot of great relationships there. Like we saw, Greg Farnham, who was the head ATC there, head athletic trainer, and I still have a great relationship with, and people that I still go to dinner with or see when I'm there. So in a lot of ways, it was very great. I don't wish away any of my time there. I learned a lot, both good and bad. But I'm sitting here now for a reason. Put the time in, and again, a lot of ugliness in a lot of situations. But I think looking back, I choose to see the relationships I made, and again, the good and the bad that got me here.
Totally. I mean, you mentioned your mental health in Minnesota. It is Mental Health Awareness Month. Mm-hmm. And you obviously have been such an advocate and an important person in terms of pushing that conversation forward, especially in the NBA. Mm-hmm. But it's interesting you say that, because something I've always wondered is, so now we know you as somebody who is vocal about it, who doesn't mind discussing it, who is able to feel the things that he feels in the open. Mm-hmm. But what was it like for you when nobody knew? Like, what were those times like in Minnesota?
Like nobody knew.
Yeah, when nobody knew.
Very lonely. And I think that's a component of mental health that's overlooked, whether it's loneliness in your struggle or loneliness just straight across the board. I think, it's funny, I was on a Chicago All-Star. I'd flown there and I'd done a panel with Michael Wilbon, Giannis, Chris Paul, and President Obama. And I had kept talking about, mental health was a big part of the discussion, and we were all talking about between the three players up there that, kind of how we're helping the communities, what do we see moving forward? And so my thing was mental health, and President Obama was like, you should also think about this in terms of loneliness, what we've seen from that perspective. And I'm like, we need to talk about this again. So we went back and, behind the curtain when we were all done, I just picked his brain on that. And that is such a major component. You don't understand. And I did a video on it on my Instagram during the pandemic, the negative effects like heart disease, how it can affect your brain, and just long-term effects of, there's like long-term effects of poor sleep. Like it's very similar with loneliness. And it's like, it's certain people, it's like a broken heart. It's almost like when an elderly person loses that person that they love in their life, or that thing that they love. Yeah.
It's a lot.
It's a lot. And I feel like that speeds up the process of them slowly, getting to the other side. Mm-hmm. I truly feel that. And for sure, I think that relationship with yourself or with others is the thing that you probably, people think, I want more money, I want more fame, I want more of this. But at the end of the day, I think it's the ability to do this and the relationships that you have within your life. So I think, and it's time, like it's elastic. You can always, make more money. You can always get more Instagram followers or be more popular or whatever it may be. But I think, you can't stretch time. We only have a certain amount here. So love up the people that, are in your life.
So, and I want to try and get this thought out correctly. The thing that sticks out to me whenever somebody makes the amazing decision to talk about their mental health is you would think in some ways it would have like an adverse reaction. Like now I'm telling you guys how I feel.
Right.
That is going to lend to like more anxiety.
Yeah.
Or like more nervousness. Does that make sense?
I thought at first it very well might.
Yeah.
But again, like I know DeMar went on your show and we had texted before he did that, and like and I always say this, like he's the guy. Like he was the one who was like, you know what? It can get really dark, and the depression is something that's heavy, and he's continued to speak about it. Like I'm so happy for him that he had such an unbelievable year this year.
Yes.
Like I really am. And every time I see him, I'm like, I don't think he like truly gets it, but like, I love that dude. I love what he's about. I love his story as well, like with his father and how proud his mom is of him. Like this year, him finding his joy back, like that makes me happy for him because of what he did for others, but like selfishly what he did for me.
Yeah.
So again, I think all skin colors, shapes and sizes, sexual preference, profile, socioeconomic status, like just all the things across the board. Everybody deals with stuff. Everybody's going to go about it at their own pace. But I think on the other side of sharing that, I mean, I did have so much anxiety. What's it going to be like when I press send on this article? And, what are people going to think of me? Am I going to be looked at as weak, or is it going to affect my livelihood? Is this going to shorten my time in the NBA? And then like, where's my identity after basketball? But thankfully it was mostly, it was accepted and well received. And, from there, like DeMar and I've got to work together on several things, mental health related, and I would hope helped a lot of people. There's licensed mental health professionals that we did a great job of using this year as a Cavs team, but on every single team, they're continuing to make the next step. The NBA is, the PA is as well. And just not only, we always talk about resources, but, it's not only just the player, but it's his whole family.
Yeah.
Because think about like, it's this whole league is built on the shoulders and the giants of the Black community. And like, think of, I talk about DeMar. It's like, it's just, he had to feel some sort of way because we had talked about like one more thing that America or, that level of business can use against him. Mm-hmm. And he's still, and his basketball, and he's a man, like all these things.
Yeah,
like, as young
a lot
boys,
of
we didn't talk about it.
Happening, yeah.
So a ton of intersection, and I was like, he is more than just a superstar athlete. Like as a human being, for him to do that, I don't even know if he knew that the impact he was going to have on people. But it's just amazing to see, the Dak Prescotts, the Naomi Osakas, the Simone Biles, the people own up to it and be like, you can't use me against me. I always say it's funny, like, of course, like, white rapper, Eminem, blah, blah, blah. But 8 Mile, like at the end, when he's like, I do live in a trailer with my mom, blah, blah, all this stuff, and like says all this shit. I'm like, okay, kind of a weird, 3-minute freestyle, whatever it was. Papa Doc got him off. But
he was owning himself.
He owned the whole thing, and then he had nothing to say.
Mm-hmm.
So like, I always think it's funny. It's like, own it so you can disown it. Like you can't use me against me.
Yeah. Well, so the thing I think that stuck out for a lot of people when you talk about owning the things that have happened to you is in the article when you talk about the panic attack.
Right.
Have you had panic attacks since?
Since I got my medication right, which I have a funny relationship with, because my hope is that, people wouldn't have to medicate and use SSRIs as much as they do. And I think, where all of this is going is, like psychedelics and guided trips with a doctor who can put you through it is incredibly healthy. And a lot of my friends that have either done ayahuasca or have done ketamine or have done psilocybin or MDMA or, whatever the toad compound is, I forget, like have gone through it, and out the other side, they're like, man, I've like waned off some of my meds. I don't have to take it as much. Like my brain chemistry feels really good. I'm very happy. So I think once I got once I got my meds right and was really proactively, doing my therapy and owning who I am and, trying to stay present and trying to have balance. Like those are the two of the hardest things I feel like in life is like, all right, balance, like I'm overextending myself or I'm not doing enough. Like where's the middle ground in that? Staying present. I think we're always looking at what's the next thing? Like who's your next interview or what's it, what?
There's like this destination addiction. Like what's the next?
Yeah. And I do think that there's a lot of happiness in having something to look forward to. 30th birthday. Yeah. So, but then like looking back and it's like you want to go to sleep, and maybe this is why I had trouble sleeping more than or less than I used to now, but is because I would be like, all right, it's time to go to sleep. And what happens? You think of the worst things that happened to you in the last 10 years.
Yeah. No, totally.
You're like, oh man, failure. Oh man, what an embarrassing moment. Or, just stuff like that. So I think.
But so how did, just to clarify, because I know what you're saying, but so have you had?
Oh, I'm sorry. So not to that extent, because that was so public. I think when I was younger, when those things would happen, I always said like I had a place to escape and just like collect myself. And it was when it wasn't, and I was like at home, or if I, felt like I needed a mental health day and I had to go to school, like it was more like rage fits. Like they were just like, throwing yourself into a pillow and felt that way. And I was more destructive. I would never take it out on another human being. It was more just like destructive within my own space.
Yeah, you. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, like Shaq always talks about like tearing up the locker room. He's like, man, if I had 8 points at halftime, I would have torn up the locker room. It's like, that was me like in my room because I had no tools to express myself. I didn't have the presence of mind to like deal with this like pit of my stomach feeling that I still have to this day. But again, it's like changing your relationship with it, that I just had like so much angst and anxiety, and I didn't know how to or why I felt that way. And on the other side of that, there was times where I just like couldn't get out of bed. So yeah, I mean, I think definitely to a lesser extent, I'm still not as comfortable in public as I would like to be. I don't know if it's like agoraphobia, like fear of public embarrassment, but it's not like, it's more, if people like have their cameras on you or like the world starts closing in on you, like I say, I feel like I'm in a permanent elevator sometimes, I'm in just like this permanent closed space. And it's like people laugh, like Channing will laugh. He's listening to this. Like I sweat, and, it feels like in your brain when you're like, okay, I'm starting to sweat, you start to sweat more. Yeah. And then like, you're like, oh man, I'm having anxiety. You have more anxiety.
More, yeah.
And then like, oh man, here comes 3 more people. Like they're coming up to me and like, okay, there's going to be more. So like you have this really vicious cycle that can be ugly. And I think that can put you into panic. But I've been able to keep that at bay. I always think about like, when I'm having a couple glasses of wine, like that's kind of how I'm buzzing and how I'm feeling at most points now, just because I feel like I've done the work, I'm in a good place, but I'm a lot more proactive than I used to be.
Yeah.
So I think that I've been able to keep those at a place where I'm not ending up on the floor of a locker room and having to be oxygen and go to the hospital.
Yeah. I mean, you talk about being proactive now and knowing how to deal with it, but I've heard you say, before you learned, you would self-medicate.
Yeah.
How did you self-medicate?
Alcohol. A lot of alcohol.
What is a lot of alcohol?
Yeah. Again, nights you don't remember, so you can forget, I guess. And people sometimes, I guess, find solace or think they do, is what I should say, in a bottle. And I knew it wasn't healthy, but I didn't care. I think I wanted to, dull the pain, make it seem, put it over there somewhere if I could. And again, a lot of people don't. I was Minnesota. I was cold. I was inside. Like that's when I talked about in my other article I wrote that I would just keep, putting it away.
Yeah.
Oh, you guys are going out. Okay, perfect. That's even better.
Yeah.
Okay, you're good. So I had to like really drink in order to meet them out. Then I just drink more, and it was an ugly cycle. It was a never ending ugly thought process. And again, that I don't feel like that helps.
Yeah, absolutely. And this was like in season. This is when you were.
Yeah, and that was before I started drinking tequila and understanding that everything else is a suppressant. Wine and tequila. I stay in my lane now, so I know better to not overdo it. But again, balance.
Yeah, I know. Last season, it was a difficult one for you because I believe what you got injured in preseason, and so then you missed the regular season opener, and then you came back and you re-aggravated it.
Yeah, so then I got contact traced when I was still rehabbing, so I had to stay. I was able to fly back to Cleveland even when I was contact traced, but I couldn't come into the facility for I think over a week.
Yeah,
and I'm trying to keep myself in shape at home, but there's nothing like actually playing, right? But I'm like, all right, I don't care. I'll even if I need to play 20 minutes tonight, I will. And so I was still dealing with, this little micro injury, my right calf. Thought I could get over it in the time that I was out there. Our first game was in Detroit, and then we played a back-to-back against Philly. And if my recall serves me right, I think we went into overtime or double overtime in that first game. And we tried to put me at a minute restriction in the first game, but I said, I'm fine. We got to win this game. We did. I played 38 minutes the first night, and I'm like, I'm playing tomorrow. I don't care. I'm playing every game that I can. And it's like my goal of being available. And the next night, it was like the first quarter. I think I'd gone up for like a hook shot against Embiid or Simmons or somebody. And as soon as I went up, I just felt my calf.
Yeah.
And I was like, that's it. Like, I'm going to be out for a little while.
And the reason I asked that is because I know something you've also said is basketball in many ways has served as like a safe space for you. It's like an escape for you.
Totally.
So in that period, do you find yourself drifting? Not
as much anymore because I have so much to. First of all, I have a dog. No, I have a dog that I love. Yeah, Vestry's great. But I was able to be in a space like it feels. I'm just like a giver at heart too, but I also like to work on things, whether it be, business or books or film or just like that can also just be hobbies too. Like I think when there's like this negative space in life or there's too much time and I always, there's this great quote I try and live by, Shakespeare, of course, but it's things won are done, joy's soul lies in the doing. Like I set out to do whatever it may be. Like I want to fill my time with stuff that I always use curiosity as a weapon because I am just generally curious. But I think that allowed me when I had basketball taken away from me, and it used to be just like, that's my identity, that's my happy place, that's where I can go to like find that inner peace and happiness. I have a number of things outside of that, that now basketball that I can work on and be happy in doing that. So I think, whether it be, 2 years, 3 years, 5 years, whatever it may be, like when I hang it up and throw the shoes over the telephone wire, like I'll transition into whatever it may be and be in a play. Obviously having the game taken away from you, you feel some sort of way. Like I've had to talk to JJ about that. Like, how's it feel?
Yeah.
But I still think, I'll be in a better place than I would have had I not, done this work on myself and have learned from a lot of those people before me.
All right. I love it. Well, I have one more for you before we turn it over to the fans that have been typing some questions for you.
Much. I'm having a drink.
So one of your passions obviously is wine, as we've talked about, and I know you also will keep corks of the wine.
Like it, yep.
Tell me the best conversation you've had over a bottle of wine that no one knows about.
Man, last night I felt like I had a great conversation. I met a buddy of mine, Michael, who lives in France, who's setting up some of the winery visits that we're going to in a couple weeks in Burgundy. And he's such a fascinating man. Like he was the head of Warner Brothers Music for all of France. He worked in the music industry. He worked so many interesting and cool jobs, and then ended up in the wine world and working directly with the chateaus. But that again is just my curiosity. Like that's as of late. I mean, there's been so many great conversations over wine, and I think that's the beauty of it. That's why I think, like, plug here, but we're Chosen Family, like that's our idea.
Shout out to Channing.
Yeah, shout out to Channing, Chase, everybody, Chosen Family. But that's kind of our concept, is like there's so much beauty in the in-between, and wine is this connector of people. And I think it's, a beautiful thing. Like, we're, a Black-owned business, and we're bringing more people into the space. Also, shout out Carlton, what's up? But I think that's the beauty of what I was talking to Michael last night. Like, all these people that he's talking about and met and, worked with, just, it's so beautiful that it just brings everybody together all over the world. And every wine bottle tells a story.
Totally.
So, like, I don't have a definitive answer of, now if we're talking about like best bottles of wine, that's a different story. But like best wine conversation and conversation over wine, or I think there's too many to count. I mean, it's been such a big part of my life the past 10 or so years.
No, I love it. Okay.
Yeah.
You're so like Pacific Northwest.
Totally.
West, totally.
That's why I went with the green today.
How close were you to going to North Carolina?
Close. I loved it.
Like,
really
how? Like, how close?
Yeah, maybe close is a strong term, but like my dad's assistant high school coach was Jim Herrick, who, coached the O'Bannon brothers, Tyus Edney. So we always grew up going to Oregon games, and we always grew up going to UCLA games. Especially they won the national championship in '95. So UCLA was like always in the back of my mind. And my dad was funny like that. Like, you hold on to certain things. And my dad, when we were playing in the Bob Gibbons tournament invitation, whatever it was, at North Carolina and Duke and, everywhere in, that space. I think some games were at Wake Forest, NC State, like the whole deal. And my dad gave me a book. It's like, it's a little blue book, and it's Coach Wooden's, and we were traveling from Portland all the way to North Carolina, like John Wooden's like lifetime observations and quotes and all this stuff. So I was just reading it on the book, and I just fell in love with the legacy of UCLA again. So I kind of knew, and he was nudging me in that direction. But plus, all my family, besides my immediate family, is in Southern California. So I had the roots down there. We had the relationships, and also they had been to 2 straight Final Fours. Like, that's badass.
Yeah.
So I'm like, I have relationships there that, will be forever. So I love North Carolina. One of the biggest regrets in my life is not, because it all happened so fast, but it could have just been a couple-minute conversations, was not having, before I made the decision, the conversation with Roy Williams about I was choosing UCLA. Because there's literally, I was like, all right, I'm ready to do this. I'm ready to commit. All right, we got to set up the press conference, straight to it. Did it, and then I'm like, so what do I do now? And
you mean like not giving the respect of the call, like that I'm going to choose?
And he deserved it.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I think that's in life and in relationships, that's probably one of my biggest regrets is I don't know if it was presence of mind. I don't know if it was the anxiety of being a teenager, or but like paying your respect to a great coach and a person who's done right by so many players that I have played with and come before. Like Roy did his thing. He's one of the greatest college coaches of all time, and somebody that a lot of people admire. So I wish I could have that moment. But
you've spoken to him since.
Yeah.
Did you tell him sorry for not calling?
No.
Well, Roy, Kevin is sorry for not calling.
Man to man, yeah, that's something.
He's at home waiting by his phone.
Yeah, he's chilling. He's waiting. He's waiting. Still waiting. Same number, same man. So
we also have to do a top 5 segment, as you do in every episode.
Let's do it.
I thought that for you, since you had this great kind of like redemption season, comeback season, whatever, coming back from your injury, I want your top 5 player comeback seasons, just your favorites.
Ooh. But it has to be basketball?
I don't know. What do you say? It can really be whatever you want.
Top 5, like, comeback.
Let's do basketball.
All right. Can I say, like, MJ coming off of, like, he's wearing the...
Totally.
Maybe even the next year, because, they lost to Orlando. Horace Grant was, like, hoisted on the shoulders, and then they went and got smacked in the finals. But, yeah, MJ... Paul George, when he came off of his injury, I was actually, I remember I was on the flight, like flying into Vegas to see some friends, but also to watch that game. or catch the second half. I forget, but I remember right when I landed, it happened early in the game. Right when I landed, my phone just blew up, and I felt so bad for him. Yeah. But he came back, and he came back, stronger. He's really, come back to, prove himself at every level. People talked about him in the playoffs, and he went, did his thing. So PG, MJ.
The big one.
Who's the big one?
Chicago Bull.
Oh, D Rose.
Yeah.
100%.
Yeah.
Somebody that I grew up with, love, still to this day. Yeah, D Rose, 100%. Myself, no.
You can put yourself in there.
Well, just because I'm not going to be able to fill up the top 5.
All right, K-Love.
Yeah, me as a I'll be the sixth man on the 6 people.
I know it's so hard off the top of the head, but that means
Channing had
to come back.
Channing had a nice. Channing, by the way, respect.
Yeah,
we had a lot of talks about that. Like speaking of game taken away from you, and doctors telling you might never play again or won't play again.
Yeah,
he's like, no, I got this.
Yeah,
came back and think about after the fact what he did. Like again, even just us collision course being such close friends, won a championship in 16.
Absolutely. So you want to put Channing in there?
100%.
So we have MJ, Paul George, Derrick Rose, Channing, and you can always be 5.
All right, just for the sake of time, I'll say myself.
Yeah, just for the sake of time. K-Love, I love it. Solid top 5.
Yeah, there we go. I like that. Thanks for the help with D Rose. That's 100%. That might even be number.
Yeah, because then they're gonna say didn't say Derrick Rose, but I got you back.
Yeah.
I got you back.
Yeah, they would have had.
What are the people saying, Rocky?
All right, a lot of Cleveland fans saying thank you. They love
I love them. I love them.
Okay, hi Kevin. Are you looking to finish your career in Cleveland?
Would love to do that. Especially.
The question was, are you looking to finish your career in Cleveland?
Oh, I'm sorry.
Yeah, that's okay.
State the question. They teach you that in media training when you're 19 years old coming into the league. Yes. Am I looking to finish my career in Cleveland? I would love to do that. I would love to have my jersey hanging up in the rafters. I know that's not my decision, but Cleveland's been really good to me. Ohio's been really good to me. The people have been really good to me. I love this team that we have. I mean, they're really fun. Every day we show up to work and go to work and have fun doing it. So, I mean, again, I think all of those things adding up, that accumulation is great. I mean, it puts a smile on my face just trying to think of the word.
Oh, I love that. Now, yeah. I mean, I know you said that it'd be a storybook ending if LeBron finished in Cleveland.
Yeah.
Have you talked about it? It's just me and you. You can tell me.
No, it is.
Have you?
Yeah, he told me he's coming back. It's a sure thing. And then he's going to figure out like Bronny and the whole. No, I don't know if I feel like it would even be cool if, just it's like one of those things where it's like a one game type of thing. Just to say like, oh, people ask, where'd you finish your career? Like, oh, I finished in Cleveland.
Yeah.
No matter if you checked in or whatever.
Right.
Like, obviously I know he wants to have a Kobe type exit where he scores 60 and does his thing, which like he probably will. Where it will be, who the hell knows? But at the end of the day, I think retiring a Cav for him, the city and Akron and Ohio, he'll have that statue. I can't wait till that goes up. I'll be there.
Totally. Love it. Another one?
Speaking of statues, a lot of people think that you deserve a statue.
No.
Rocket Mortgage, what do you think?
No. Maybe a paperweight. I don't know.
Why do you say no to the statue?
Because I think that like, okay, the Baseball Hall of Fame is like so hard to get into, right?
It is.
And I think the Basketball Hall of Fame less so, even though it's an unbelievably esteemed thing. And I would hope that one day I'll be there. But statues, like how many are there? 15, maybe?
Mm-hmm.
Maybe. That is the true greatness. Statues. If you have a statue, and there's going to be a lot of guys from this generation that are going to get them. And I mean, like, LeBron's going to get one. Steph will get one. I'm going to forget a ton of guys, but like, you just saw Dirk get one. Does Tim Duncan have one yet?
I don't believe Tim has one, but I might be wrong.
Because he should.
Yeah, for sure. He is a guy that is worthy of it.
100%. I think KG, but that's tough. Like, where does he get one, right? Like, he got his number retired in Boston, but, he was MVP. So it's tough, but I think, no, I do not deserve a statue. But I think that is the highest level of honor and respect, because I think that's like truly being immortalized.
Yeah. I mean, okay, this is obviously way too early prediction time, but of these like young players, tell me the two that you think are most likely to eventually have like a statue.
Ooh.
There's some talent.
There's some talent.
Those 20-somethings.
Those 20-something. I'm trying to. If somebody did like a top, whatever, 20 or 15 or 10 under 25. I'm trying to.
I mean, there's so Luka, Jason, Ja, Devin, Donovan, Trey.
But I think Luka. Yeah, Ja.
You can only pick two.
I know, but it's hard. Like there's half a dozen or so I could say, okay, they could really do it. It's going to be dependent on like championships and all-star game, like, withstanding the test of time, body holds up, numbers, like there's a lot of factors into it. Even with like Manu, it was FIBA basketball.
Mm-hmm.
The fact that they won the 2004 Olympics was like, that solidified him in the because it's accumulation. But then statue-wise, like that is a whole different ballgame. So there's a few. But
I'm like waiting for you to tell me too.
I'm safe in saying those two, but I'm also safe in saying
so
I don't.
You say Luka and Ja, but you're like there's so many opportunities.
I have no idea. Yeah,
okay.
I think that there's. Yeah, we have yet to see how good some of them can be, but there's definitely the game. I'll say this is in very good hands, and you guys know who you are.
Yeah, and I also think like your answer, like it's not even about like talent. So like you're saying, oh, I prefer Luka and Ja. It's that I think there is something to players being synonymous with their city. Like that's what gets you the statue, and it's like Ja kind of like is Memphis. Like Luka will probably be in Dallas forever, So it's really about that career.
Trey is like very Atlanta.
Very Atlanta.
Like you have.
And honestly, I have said this before, and people are like, what? Trey has the opportunity to become like the greatest Hawk of all time. 100%. Like, it's not like there's, obviously we have Dominique Wilkins and stuff, but there's not like this litany of players that you are having to overcome.
Oh, he's going to be right there. Regardless.
Yeah. 100%. Yeah. Okay. Jinx, you want me to say that? All right, Rocky.
I love that game. It makes me feel young.
Do you have any individual goals as you near the later end of your career?
They wanted to say fun. No. Honestly, goals would just be, again, I think it's funny, like speaking, I know we spoke about USA basketball earlier, but someone I forgot to mention was the former Commander-in-Chief of the Armed Forces, General Dempsey, him and his wife, Deanie. Like they told me like in the military, being available for that next man or that next person, like being available. Like I just like glued myself to that idea. And I really wanted to, obviously COVID happened. So those were games that I missed, but outside of that, no injury related games were missed. And I think honestly, if I feel good, I'm healthy and I'm in shape, which is mostly under my control, then I can be available. And if I'm available and feeling good, I'm going to play good. And I understand and know myself in that way. So just be available. And then I think with that, it kind of allows you to lose yourself in the game and play free.
I think you've like set the record for like trade rumors.
Minus this year. Now they're like, we can't get rid of him. And I mean it like in a good way, not a negative connotation.
Yeah. I love it.
Definitely since I've been there.
Oh no, it's always
how quickly can we get rid of this guy? Who's the lowest common denominator? Oh, it's Kevin. Let's send him out of here.
Oh my gosh. Any more, Rocky?
Okay, maybe one or two more. Do you see yourself coaching after you retire?
No.
I
knew you were going to.
I do not. And like, I'll say it about today. It's like, again, lowest common denominator. Like, are they going to go after James? Or are they going to go after Doc? Like, I just like Doc as a human being. So I know that he put in the time, and who knows? Is he the best fit? Is he the best, coach for that team? I don't know. But, it's like either the disrespect from players, the disrespect from the media. Like, again, words are wind, right? Like that just kind of like goes past. He's like, just write it. Whatever you're going to write, just write it. Like you saw that today. But I think that they're, a lot of the time I'm talking about like meeting people halfway with respect. I just don't think it's there with coaches. And it's so much, this league and life in general is like, what have you done for me lately? And I get that you have to produce, and that's what he and the collective we as players get paid for. You have to produce. You have to show something. But I think he said it perfectly today. Like every season you go in thinking like we're going to win a championship, and this team had a real shot, and we didn't do that. Now, do I deserve to be fired? That's not my decision.
Yeah.
But I think being a coach is hard. I haven't always been the easiest player to coach.
Why not?
No, I just mean like I was young, or I was feeling some sort of way one game or two games, or you sub me out, like just shit like that. That a coach just kind of absorbs as like it's part of the job. And I'd like to think I know that I've had far more great moments or good moments than moments I wish I could take back. But as a coach, I just think I would do player development. I would do stuff like that where I could really help a player come into his own and take the next step. But like a head coach, I just couldn't see myself doing that.
Yeah, that's fair.
But of course I say it now, and who knows?
Yeah. One more?
Last one. Do you think the Cavs will make a playoff run next year? And if not, what's the one thing preventing them from doing that?
Do you think the Cavs will make a playoff run?
Yes.
And if not, what's the thing that would prevent?
No, I think we will. And the only thing that can prevent it is health. We fought a battle of attrition this year and had so many games missed due to injury. I mean, Lowry was out from rolling his ankle. Karras rolled his ankle right when we got back from All-Star break. J.A. broke his finger. Evan was in and out. DG was in and out with his back. Dean Wade, meniscus. Like we had guys, even, like Lamar missed game. Like everybody, outside of myself, thankfully, I didn't miss any games, but I was fortunate. But those guys, that's the only thing that's going to hold us back. I think that we have a great shot to even make the next step coming off this summer, and we'll be hungry not only to make the playoffs, but give ourselves a real chance to win and move on.
Absolutely. I mean, I don't mean to end on a low note, but with it being Mental Health Awareness Month, I think it's important because I know something you really want to do is make sure you speak to the youth and kids that are dealing with some of the similar things that you have. We lose so many people to suicide. And I know suicide is a thing that you thought about, a thing that you contemplated. And I think an important thing is knowing that there is hope and that it does get better. Why didn't you do it?
I think because at the time, like I talked about, like a playbook, it just wasn't having transparency or being vulnerable was looked at. I should say transparency in your struggle was looked at as weak, and I had to be the number one player in the country and the guy that everybody looked to and could go out there and produce and lean on and trust. And I felt like all that would be taken away if that was the case. But for me, people ask me all the time, like, what would you tell your younger self? And it goes back to that idea of like, nothing haunts us like the things we don't say. I would have said, speak your truth, because I just imagine all those in between and great moments in life, and even some of the moments that are tough and teach perspective would have just been that much better. And maybe I could have even impacted my life and other people's lives more so had I done that
Totally
earlier. But also I would hope that, young men or women at that age, because there's been so much that's even come out this past 3 or 4 weeks, like 1 in 5 high school students since the pandemic have thought about seriously taking their lives. Like, you're on a high school team, and one of the guys on the starting 5 or girls on the starting 5 has considered that suicidal ideation and really, plan, follow up, and thought about killing themselves. So I think it's a really important and meaningful and moving conversations to have. And I think that it's, there's the thought is, to be a part of something bigger than yourself and very, you mentioned the word hope. I think that's kind of what we're getting at, is establishing hope for younger people in the next generation, but also those that are going through it at any age or wherever they are in life.
Absolutely. Well, I think you know this, but you genuinely are so important, I think, to everyone in the landscape. It's not just about like you being an NBA player that's talking about it. It's just you being a person that's talking about it. So you, DeMar, Dak, all the people we talk about.
Takes an army, for
sure. Yeah, absolutely.
The more the better.
Yeah. Well, thank you for
Everyone's
being you.
welcome.
And for like actually coming on.
Oh, I'm here.
2 years later.
Yeah, I didn't know if we were going to like, a year or 2 years ago, if we were able to do this. So this is great.
Totally.
Thank you for having me.
Absolutely. Appreciate you.
Yeah, you too.